many misguided policies, most recent school closure plans for the 21-22 and 22-23 school years. And I've also seen some appalling things. I was appalled by what I saw last week at Parker Elementary. And I am joining others here today in connecting what happened last week at Parker to a creeping and now clear pattern of intimidation and political repression against educators and community members involved in protest and civil disobedience against OUSD's racist school policies. School closure policies, excuse me. What I saw last week at Parker Elementary was unlicensed and untrained private security officers violently assaulting parents and community members, injuring 11 people and sending 4 of them to the ER. As it turns out, this security firm is not currently licensed to conduct business in the state of California. So here, OUSD has hired a company that is interacting with families, with educators, and with the public. OUSD has no earlier contract with this vendor and entered into a contract with them without doing even the most basic due diligence, which it took us all of 15 minutes to discover that this company was not licensed to be doing business in the state of California per the FTB and the Secretary of State. If we can find that out, certainly the superintendent can find that out before signing a contract with this vendor, as she did in May of this year. And now what I've seen is that Craig Gordon has been fired. Craig's a 32-year veteran in the Oakland Unified School District and a visible advocate in the fight against school closures in Oakland. He has an unblemished teaching record. This is plainly about his political activism. Firing him and another teacher who are a substitute and a contractor, respectively, is a cowardly act of political repression against OUSD employees who are doing nothing more than engaging in civil disobedience and are among those employees with the fewest safeguards on their employment. Furthermore, not that we expect anybody currently in leadership in the Oakland Unified School District to be cowed by charges of hypocrisy, but this is also in violation of a letter from Chief Governance Officer Josh Daniels. That's Josh Daniels. To hunger strikers Moses Omalade and Andre Sanche in February of this year, pledging no retaliation, and I quote, against any OUSD employee involved in protesting school closures or supporting those who are involved in protesting school closures. So what we have here is the confluence of an old enemy, some McCarthyism, repression of political behavior, particularly through attacks on a person's ability to get and remain employed, and some wannabe cop violence like we saw last Thursday, which OUSD told us when they passed the George Floyd resolution that they were getting rid of. Now they found a backdoor to bring violent wannabe police back onto campus. We are not having it. What we saw last Thursday is that the cops are still very much with us. What we've seen this week is that the cops are still very much with us, whether they're OUSD security officers or unaccountable district staff firing teachers. Furthermore, we're in a teacher shortage, so really to retaliate against teachers, beloved teachers with an unblemished teaching record, solely for participating in acts of civil disobedience, just goes to show yet again how little the Oakland Unified School District cares about the students that it serves. I would like to turn it over now to the Executive Board Representative for the Substitute Caucus, the Oakland Education Association, Sharon Thomas.
Good afternoon, and I'm very sorry that I'm here for this reason. We all ought to be very upset. This is a good substitute teacher. I've seen it with my own eyes. He's helped me many times before I retired in my classroom. And I would like to read a part of a letter that we sent out to our substitute caucus. This firing of a retired OUSD teacher and a longtime substitute teacher is outrageous and comes at a time when OUSD is suffering a teacher shortage. On its face, it makes no sense. However, we believe that Craig Gordon was targeted because of his outspoken activism on behalf of substitute teachers and possibly for his support of the community reclamation of Parker School, which is currently still going on. Craig won a significant attribution decision against OUSD around the issue of substitute teacher payments during COVID. He has been very visible through the years as a video recorder during many OEA actions, either at school board, in the streets, or at the school closure sites. I'm begging and pleading for all of us to wrap our knowledge, arms, any kind of support we can give him to get his job back, because he deserves to have it back. What he did was rightfully fighting for the rights of schools to be open in schools where now the neighbors, the people that went to the school have to be bused in different places. And we already know that the busing won't last long. If the district says they're going to do it, it probably won't happen for a whole school year, maybe a few months. We can't trust, because of the past performance of the district, we can't trust them. So please help us help Craig Gordon and the other teacher that was fired get their jobs back. And the district should be held accountable to at least say why he was even fired. So thank you for listening, and please rally around us and him to get his job back as soon as possible.
Sharon Thomas. Our next speaker is going to be Judy Greenspan, who is the chair of OEA's Substitute Teacher Caucus.
You know, the ILWU has a saying that they always say, an injury to one is an injury to all. This is an injury that is being felt across the Substitute Caucus, that is being felt across the Oakland Education Association, but it is really an attack on the Oakland community. It is an attack on the parents in the community. And I will tell you, teachers fought for years for tenure, for job security. I just want you to know, substitute teachers do not have any job security. Tara Gard sent a one-liner to Craig Gordon: you are hereby relieved of your teaching duties, period, and we don't have to tell you why. We know why. Because Craig has been one of the most visible opponents of the outrageous treatment of substitute teachers. Throughout the pandemic, Craig has been really the head of our own grievance committee, which we don't have, but he is sort of the grievance committee. And he has filed numerous grievances. He has met in meetings with the same people who gave him his one-liner. And Craig also has been very visible at Parker School. He has been documenting that whole struggle. And they are retaliating against him for all of his activism. And they can do it because he's a substitute teacher. If he was back being a teacher, I'm a retired teacher who came back during COVID because I felt like there was a tremendous need. They were begging people to come forward and be substitute teachers. And this is what OUSD, this is how they treat substitute teachers. Well, it's no wonder they don't have enough substitute teachers for their classes. It is outrageous. It is outrageous during the pandemic and the incredible, very serious teacher shortage to dismiss any qualified teachers or substitutes, particularly unfairly for political activity. As we move forward this next bargaining year, we're going to fight for job security for substitute teachers. We're going to fight for some of the rights that general education teachers have in their classroom. We have to. We cannot work. We cannot be, at will. They were begging for us to come back. We want to raise, so substitutes, daily substitutes get $279 in Oakland because of OEA and because of our advocacy. Not enough, but it's something. But they can just fire us whenever they want, and that is absolutely outrageous. So this is going to be a movement. We're going to call on you to support not only the substitutes, but the teachers in the community as we move forward. An injury to one is an injury to all, but when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, spotlight I'm sure you never wanted. Craig Gordon.
Thank you. I really don't have anything else to say, actually, because I think that Sharon and Judy, my comrades in the union and the substitutes and in the struggle, have really explained what's going on. So I'll just try to succinctly explain from my point of view what's happened, and it's important to keep the focus on the fact that this really isn't It's not just happening to me. This is happening, this is definitely an attack on teachers and people who are fighting these school closures, these racist school closures in Oakland, mostly in the black and brown poorest communities in Oakland. And this district is just desperate to try to shut down the movement that has really flourished in the last year, like we actually haven't seen it in the last 20 years. So that's something that they're clearly scared of. So they're just grasping at straws and trying to get rid of the two people who are the easiest to pick off: a substitute teacher and another teacher who's not who's contracted and doesn't have employment rights. So I'll just say that, you know, I've worked in the district since 1990. I started as a classrooms teacher in high schools, mostly in East Oakland, teaching social studies, and then I retired in 2014. I've been a substitute since then. This is not the first time that this district has actually gone after me, because I've been active in the union for about 25 of the 32, or 27 of the 32 years I've been here. And they were found, the Public Employment Relations Board actually filed a complaint against them about 10 years ago for another time they went, you know, that they tried to retaliate and with a vicious attack. Actually, after the school I was at, Paul Robeson School of Performing and Visual Arts on the Fremont High campus, they closed our school in 2010, and we fought back, and I was very active in that struggle, and we said a lot of mean things about the people on the school board and the state administrator at the time. They didn't like it, and when they had a chance, they went after me, and even the Public Employees Relations Board found massive amount of evidence valid to sustain a charge against them for unfair labor practice. So they're just doing it again because now they feel it's easier to do, I guess, and this is just a moment when they've lost control. I mean, you know, the violent action at Parker last week just shows how completely careless and reckless they are. So they really don't think these things through. And I think that they're going to be sorry that they did this, because I see the support that on very short notice is materializing, and I very much appreciate it and love all the folks who, you know, stepping up. There's more to come, because this is just one part of this fight against you know, the privatization of this district, that our school board, the majority of the school board and administration that is just are willing tools of these billionaire privatizers of public schools are willing to play into and willing to go along with. So it takes, you know, it's going to take all of us to fight back, and yes, it's very important to fight off any attempt to try to pick off any of the activists in this movement one by one. So, and we saw that, by the way. One of the things I was involved in recently was, because I see one of my fellow teachers here who was one of those who was being attacked, or 7, I think, teachers at Met West who were just being viciously attacked by the district and by their administration. And we have to stand up and organize to fight against them. And we won that one, and we're going to win this one too. So thank you very much.
One more time for Craig Gordon. I mentioned a little earlier that we saw at Parker last week is apparently OUSD has found a back door to keep wannabe cops on campus through a very poorly vetted services agreement with the PPO that sent security personnel to Parker last week. Cops aren't supposed to be on OUSD campuses anymore, thanks to the work of, among others, the Black Organizing Project, and it is my pleasure to welcome Nyaka Bryant from the Black Organizing Project up to say a few words.
Woo! All right.
So first of all, thank you to all the people at Parker. Well, firstly, thank you to all the people at Parker who stood up and defended the human right to education, first and foremost. So after passing the George Floyd resolution in 2020, the OUSD made a commitment to the community to uphold the spirit of the resolution by ensuring that they protect students in the community from the impact of systemic racism and violence to the greatest extent possible while they are at school. Namely, at the hands of the police and protecting people from policing on school grounds. Right? But the brutality that we saw last week, where the district came in and unleashed those security guards on the community, on people that are actually defending the community. Right? The actual defenders of the community were attacked by people that are upholding a culture of policing. That is unacceptable. The George Floyd resolution wasn't just about getting rid of the police on campus. It wasn't just that. It was about upending the culture of policing, period. Right? Including private security. Right? Including security guards that want to pretend like they're police. Security guards that might have wanted to be a police officer but couldn't get on the force. Right? It's completely unacceptable, and we're going to fight it. We're going to fight it. Part of the George Floyd resolution also includes plans for a people's budget, right? Meaning, we want the money that went into policing to go towards programs that are going to upend that policing culture in the schools, right? So whoever hired whoever hired those security officers also violated them, but on the strength that they knew that hiring, that money, right, was supposed to be going towards things that the community actually wanted. And they cannot say that they did not know that the community wanted that school open first and foremost, right? Second of all, they can't say that the community wanted to be brutalized, right? They can't say that those security guards were necessary or their presence was justified, right? We know all that is a lie, right? We know all that is a lie. So OUSD, you are put on notice. You are put on notice. That will not stand. The community will continue to fight. You just keep digging yourself deeper and deeper into the hole. Deeper and deeper into the hole. The people aren't going to stand for it any longer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sinyaka. So again, we're out here to make a connection between the culture of policing that Sinyaka was just talking about and the firing of Craig and another OUSD teacher for civil disobedience, political speech. Whether it's wannabe police or firing educators, OUSD has no right to engage in the pattern of political repression in which they're currently clearly engaging, in which we are here today to call on them to stop. I believe we may be nearing the end of our list of speakers. I have one person who I'm hoping will say a few words, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him up here. Gerald. Our next speaker. Cord management is very poor.
We all right. We gonna make it. We gonna make it. We are. We ain't no obstacles for ourselves. Okay.
Gerald Smith.
Okay. How y'all doing? You know what? We can't say too often that the OUSD, the Oakland Unified School District Administration, actually attacked Parker Elementary, where we had our occupation going on. They physically attacked people in the building. Now, when they put out the call, over 60 people showed up, and we retook the building. Let's just understand what happened. And now this. And now this. Now they're firing 2 teachers. And I guess this must be a test balloon for them. I don't understand how they could even imagine that they would get away with this. But They certainly did it. Craig, no, they did it. It can be reversed depending on what we do. That's the question. But they did it. There's no question that they did. I saw the letter. Okay? Now look, when we talk about why it is that we want our teachers to have tenure, why it is that we want our teachers to have job security, it should be obvious that simply by the run-of-the-mill questions, there is a principle that actually fires every teacher before they can get tenure. There's a principal in the Oakland Unified School District that gets away with that every year. How long? How long is she going to get away with that? How long are we going to accept that? We do not accept the firing of these two teachers. What are we going to do about it? We need to formulate a plan. We need to get the OEA, that is the Oakland Educational Association leadership, involved in this resistance. Oh yeah. And we need to have, we need to stop dealing with, we get lucky sometimes. Yeah, okay. They're raring to go. But listen, we can't live off of luck. Okay? Because what we need is a strategy. Is a strategy to defend our two teachers. And understanding that this is only the beginning if we let this stand. Okay? So we need not luck, but a strategy. We need to come together, and we have an organization, we have a union structure, we have a rep council. Let's use it to solve these problems.
Thank you, Joe. I believe that unless there's anybody else who's here to speak, it's time for questions for our speakers. Could you clarify the question? Yes, it is. The occupation continues. Haven't gotten a date count, and we're at, I'm going to get yelled at over text message shortly, upwards of 80 days. It was 70, sorry to that, we will have the number shortly, but pushing or exceeding 80 days at this point. First day of May 25th, the last day of the 21-22 school year. 77. How can we help? I think that Gerald was just naming a few ways that people can help, putting pressure on OUSD leadership, on Chief Talent Officer Tara Gard, on Superintendent Kyla Johnson-Trammell to reverse the personnel decisions that have been made. We are calling for a full investigation into OUSD's contracting and vetting processes, specifically around their services agreement with the security vendor who was involved in the incident at Parker last week. And we're looking to put pressure on as many levers as we can to protect Craig, the other teacher who has been terminated, and as many of the other Oakland educators as possible, whether they're involved in civil disobedience at Parker, protesting school closures, or not. As Judy said, an injury to one is an injury to all. If anybody else would like to answer any of these questions instead of me, please.
So, expounding on Cheryl's question, the schools are closed. pressing charges? What's the plan for those folks?
I don't want to speak to any proceedings that I'm not a part of myself. I know that there are several different legal avenues actively being pursued, and my understanding is that the occupation of Parker is a tactic to put pressure on the district to at least give the families at Parker and the community in Eastmont around Parker some say over what goes on at that site next. Turn it over to Max Orozco for a second.
Yeah, Max! Woo!
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I do want to say we've been demanding answers from OUSD, from the attack that we suffered last Thursday, and we have yet to receive an answer to that questions that we've been asking. We are going to pursue, we are suing the district. We are going to get to the bottom of this. What happened to me and many of other of my brothers at Parker cannot just stay quiet and be swept under the rug by OUSD like they have done in previous occasions. I do want to say, personally, we have not been contacted, or at least I have not been contacted. So we do need to stand together as a community. We do need to stand together with our teachers. Because I keep on hearing, we have a shortage of teachers. We need teachers. If that, we know that is the case, why are they firing our teachers? That contradicts what they're saying. Another thing I do want to point out, I have not seen, after today, a USD person coming up next to us and saying that we have said lies. Every transcript or every writing communication they give out to the media is through a letter. Why are they not coming like us, showing their faces? I will answer that for you guys, because they are lies. This is a face of someone that is coming straight into the camera, straight into the public, telling them what is the action by these children when they graduated their summer program. We had a child that actually played piano for us. That is a feeling that it's really hard to describe unless you are a parent and you have received that type of love from a child. Thank you.
I just want to add one other thing to what Max was saying. You asked if he was arrested. He said no, he was brutalized by, and this was by the private wannabe cops, and this is by privately contracted individuals who aren't qualified, and they're not employees, not workers within the district. They are not unionized. And I just want to emphasize the SEIU, which represents campus supervisors, put out a statement, condemning what happened, and wanted to be very clear that this is the work of the kind of privatization that is occurring in this district that we're talking about, with the closing of schools, the opening of charters. But this is another aspect of it. And in fact, the contracted teacher who has been terminated also, they want to bring in more and more people who are not protected by employment rights or by a union. So when they bring in private security like this, that it's not unionized, and they do it in such a reckless fashion, this is what you get.
So my name is Joel Velasquez. I am also for transparency running for D6 candidate school board. I'm a parent, resident 30 years, D6 10 years. My youngest daughter's right here. My other children attended here, Lakeview, and 7 other campuses throughout the last 20 years. There's a couple of things we need to kind of bring together. These attacks on teachers, our community, I witnessed what happened to Max and to other people there that were assaulted, handcuffed, and held against their will. But what's really important for all of you to understand is that this attack has been going on for almost 2 decades. What's happening to the parents at Parker and the community there happened to us at Lakeview. And the district keeps claiming that there's a deficit. but they're ignoring the fact that charters keep opening up in these spaces. Right now in Lakeview, there is a charter school that takes the same public funding that was meant for the school that was there before. How is that equitable? Please explain that to me, how that's possible. There's no funding here, but we're gonna take the same funding and replace it with a charter school. So I just wanna make sure for the people listening at home, the people here today, that this attack is the ultimate trespassing on our education system. When the district tries to release a statement and say that we are trespassing, we are protecting the most critical and important space in our communities, our school sites. There is no other space that's more important to all of us, all of society, except for that school space. So let's be really, really clear what these parents and community members are doing. They're protecting their children. And they're doing it in the most peaceful way. And to be assaulted and beaten and handcuffed, we will hold OUSD accountable all the way up, whether it's Josh Daniels or Kyla, whoever it is will be accountable and fired. And more importantly, we will end school closures in Oakland. Thank you.
I do know that we, in response to an earlier question, we do have somewhat of an authority here on any legal proceedings that may be currently underway. Walter, if you're, Walter Riley.
Thank you. This fight is going to be organized by all the people in the community organizing those people who are liberating at Parker. For what we're doing in the legal realm, we're going to hold the people accountable who unleashed this attack on people at Parker. There are many ways to deal with people who are protesting, who are trying to seek redress for what they think when they think they've been wronged in our society. But the violent attack that we witnessed at Parker is not one of the ways that's acceptable. It is not one of the ways that's acceptable to deal with people who are protesting, who are organizing community, who are at odds with the government, or who are at odds with the public administration, and in this case, people who are at odds with the Oakland Unified School District. And what we're going to do is take on those folks that unleashed people without authorization, perhaps, from the school board, because the school board was in a retreat at the time that it occurred. And they had no authorization from anyone that is clearly in a position to unleash this kind of violent attack. The other aspect of it, whoever sent those folks out do not have the right to use eviction processes. You can't use self-help eviction if they want to evict those people. That's the law, that's what we're dealing with. So we're going to hold OUSD accountable because we're going to sue OUSD. We're going to sue individuals who are part of the administration of the OUSD. Looks like it might be Kyla, looks like it might be Josh Daniels. But it's going to be whoever unleashed this violent attack. We're also going to sue the agency that went out there, that private security agency, whether they have up-to-date incorporation or not. They're going to be held liable as an organization. We're going to hold the individual officers liable who went out there. We're particularly going to make a point of the fact that one of the officers, security officers that went out, put her knee on Max's neck. Now, after all that has happened since 2020, with knees on the neck, all of the discussion, she put her knee on Max's neck. And when she moved away, she was smiling. That's unacceptable in any sense of the word. For community, for organizing, for our sense of our place in the world, that we're not allowing that to happen here. And we want to take it on. She's going to be held liable. We are intending to sue the other individuals, every officer that went out there that day, because they put hands on people when they are not authorized to do it. We're also going to hold the Oakland Police Department accountable. So the City of Oakland and Oakland Police Department, police officers went out and they found that the security folks had done at least one illegal act in handcuffing and holding Max. They didn't observe him take Max down, but they observed that he was handcuffed, and they know who did the handcuffing. They released him from the handcuffs, but they did not hold anybody on account for that. So the Oakland Police Department is liable for that violation. They're also liable because they stood by and watched people in the security agency put hands on and brutalize people. One woman out there that's a part of this occupation since day one was thrown against the wall. On what television show that this person decided that it was okay for them to do that kind of violent attack on someone? Threw her against the wall head first, causing injury to one side of her brain, and because of the violence of the attack and her hitting the wall, her brain, well, shifted to the other side and caused a bruise on the other side of the brain. Significant injury. So Max is brutalized, and she is injured, and there are other people who are injured. One person had an arm in the door, and the security folks tried to slam the arm on the door, and when people pulled back against it, they fought to pull that arm on the door. That's unacceptable. And people stood by and allowed it. Every officer that saw that, was a part of that, is liable. 2 people just went to jail in Minneapolis for standing by and watching the murder of George Floyd. We're going to hold these people liable, and this is what we are doing in the lawsuit. We are also, as a community, asking, why isn't the Oakland District Attorney's Office involved in this illegal conduct? We want to know why they don't hold people responsible for it. So it's something that we as a community are going to carry forward, and litigation will be in court. We're very likely to be in federal court, and we will be filing the lawsuit very soon. The first thing we will do is file a notice of claim with the Oakland School District, the Police Department, and City of Oakland. Thank you.
Say your last name again and title, please. Your name and title.
Walter Riley, attorney.
Can you spell first and last name? Spell it.
W-A-L-T-E-R-R-I-L-E-Y.
Thank you, Walter. Sorry. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but I just want to respond to an earlier question about, I think the implication was after what happened on Thursday, are the children going to be back at Parker Elementary? I'm not going to answer that question directly, but as somebody who was involved at Parker from the beginning of the action there, we got a number of visits over the summer from a person whose name has come up several times in this press conference, Josh Daniels, Chief Governance Officer for the Oakland Unified School District, visited Parker a number of times, and basically was implying that we were endangering children at Parker. Children there with their parents as part of an act of civil disobedience and community resistance were somehow being endangered by the act of trespassing with their parents. I saw real endangerment one time at Parker during my whole time there, and it was last Thursday. And I want to stress again that this is a services agreement that OUSD entered into. They have been sending the people who are now going to be sued for a violent attack last week. These people have been policing every school board meeting. They are in charge of community-facing events that OUSD puts on. They are around children, they are around teachers, they are around families. OUSD has been endangering every single member of the community for months by sending these people out to police their events. It's unacceptable. And I would like to welcome Mark Airgood from By Any Means Necessary.